President Biden, while black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, black families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there's more small black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're providing housing for black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporate races that collude to keep people out of their houses.
Racist codes to keep people out of their houses.
The impact on the choice that black families have to make relative to child care is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce black child care costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for child care.
We made sure that all them black people got abortions, and we only had to pay for half their child care.
Economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done.
But yeah, there's always more to be done because if we did it all, you wouldn't elect us again.
Letting up, and they know it.
But welcome back, everybody. We're a little bit.
What do you say to black voters who are disappointed
amazed by Joe Biden's ability to carry on with all this, but
disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For
that
example,
means we don't have an excuse not to.
Any black family, first-time home buyer, should get a $10,000 tax credit.
Because it worked so well during 2008.
So they can get
just
started.
give everybody
made sure that we're in a situation
the money they need for a home
for
political purposes.
Who had to take out student loans that were ballooning.
The student loans that I promised to forgive that I didn't.
Anything having to do with volunteerism. If they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest is
if you did pay your college for 10 years that they didn't deserve, then I'll forgive the rest, I promise.
For black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right, it's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody.
Thank you for mentioning the Hispanic families. We appreciate that.
They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't.
45 minutes in, and we've discussed the minority issues now all of a sudden.
Quadrupled.
It's good.
They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it.
One thing I will say, it is interesting how minority politics is not the majority of what we talk about now in debates and other political situations. When I was growing up, the racialization of America was going off the charts. It became so important.
Is the millions of people
now
that
it's
he's allowed
important
to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs
as you're seeing now.
And it could be 18. It could be 19
it's good
and
to
even
represent
20 million people.
Where you come
They're
from,
taking
where
black
you come
jobs,
from.
and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
See, again, Trump is always applying the current point that they're talking about to immigration and the economy.
Flat on its back. 15%
Republicans were very bad at talking about minority and racial relations for a long time. Now they're the masters of it. And now the Democrats have no idea how to speak to Hispanic and black voters. It's been an amazing inversion, honestly.
Including minority communities. We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered.
We've forced them to have health insurance.
I made sure that they're
Obamacare. That was me. It was a big effing deal.
Get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again.
This guy's living in 2010,
we find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing anything, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and
yes, Democrats, known supporters of the police.
There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history.
It's getting too hot. What you going to do about it?
Across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost
it's
every
a beautiful
police
point.
group.
You can't stop Donald Trump from interrupting Joe Biden, but you can absolutely stop him from not answering
including
Joe
the fact
Biden.
That for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget
Oh,
that.
Joe Biden's not
Super
happy about
predators
that.
was
He's
his
not
name.
happy about when
And
he
called
called
it
black
to
people
them,
criminals.
And they've taken great offense
Oh,
at
he
it,
doesn't
and
like
now they
remembering
see it
that.
happening.
Or how he
But when
walked
they
into
see
a
what I did for
7-Eleven and
criminal
say, you need to be
justice
Indian to
reform
talk to these
and
people.
for the historically
he didn't really say
black,
that. What he actually said was
colleges
way
and
worse.
Universities where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job.
You
Great
got to
senator
watch
from
that
South
name
Carolina.
drop.
He came to me with the idea,
He
and it was
might
a great
be-
idea.
Tim
It's
Scott
one of
might
the
be the
most
only
successful
person
economic development acts
for
ever
Donald
in the
Trump
country.
to name
Opportunity
drop
zones.
in this
And
debate.
the
If
biggest
so,
beneficiary
look
are
at him
blacks, and
for a
that's
VP
why
pick.
we have the best numbers with them in
Tim Scott was also
maybe
very much
ever.
the
They're
most
saying ever. I
disciplined
read this morning where
of the
best
Republican
numbers.
primary
He's
contestants,
lost
aside from
much
Trump.
of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people.
I think
he's
we'll
also
see.
done a horrible job
We'll
for
see if this comes to
Hispanics.
something.
But wait till you see these millions
this
of people
third-
pouring into our country,
you know,
and
if
they're
this
going to take
shotgun
the
in the
jobs,
third act
and it's
goes
already
off, we'll see
started,
about that.
And you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
You 38 seconds left, President Trump. Will you take any action as president to slow
He
the
didn't
climate
even answer the
crisis?
question.
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want
Beautiful.
absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best
We had
numbers
H2O.
ever, and we were using
We had clean
all
water,
forms of
folks.
energy, all
H2O.
forms, everything.
And nothing else
yet,
in there.
During my 4 years, I had the best
Unlike Democrat-run
environmental
Flint, Michigan.
numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
I don't know where the hell he's been. Anything he said is true.
We don't know where the hell you've been either, Joe.
Most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the
That's
way,
the point.
black
Joe
colleges,
Biden legislates, Donald Trump
came
achieves.
Up with $50 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have the kind of contributors that they have to
Donald Trump
build these
has the
laboratories
point on
and all
historically
that.
black
Any
colleges,
black student
period.
is capable in college of doing
I don't know
anything a white
why
student
Joe
can
Biden
do.
is trying to run
He
these
just have the money,
coattails.
but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech.
Or mentioning
We're in a
Obama. You'd think that if
situation where
anything
the
was
idea
about the
that
black community,
he
Joe
is
Biden would mention,
claiming
I was
to have
VP of the
done
first black
something that
president,
had
but
cleanest water.
that should tell you
Cleanest
about
water?
the collective
They done a
memory
damn
that the
thing
black
for the
community has
environment.
about the Obama administration.
The Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord.
Peace
I
Accord.
immediately
Yeah, the
claimed
Peace Accord that
is
you
we
didn't go
reach
to in
1.5
Switzerland, Joe.
degrees Celsius at any one point where there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do a damn
Not
thing
Russia,
about it.
apparently.
He wants them to
Apparently,
do all that I've
existential
done.
threat to humanity. Vladimir
The
Putin's
Paris
not one of
Accord
them.
was going to cost
according
us
to Joe
$1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a rip-off
What
of
is
the
he
United
doing?
States. And
I'm sorry,
I ended
but
it
it's
because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly.
I
We were
mimicked
the only
to
ones
show
who was
the point
costing
that if
us
somebody
money,
else
nobody
was
paying
doing this, we
into
would
it.
never
And
tolerate that. We
it
would
was
never
a
accept
disaster.
that. But for some reason, when
everything
Joe
that he
Biden
said
acts like
just now,
that, it's
I'll give you an
perfectly
example. I
fine.
heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I
It's
took care
interesting
of the
that Trump was
seniors.
able to remember
What
that
he's
far
doing
back
is
into the
destroying
debate.
all
I
of
doubt
our medical
Donald. I
programs
doubt that
because
Joe
the
Biden
migrants coming in
could do that.
They want everybody. And look,
Oh,
I have the biggest heart.
Trump
on the
is
stage,
wrapping
I
it up
guarantee
right
you
here.
that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools.
That was a beautiful
our
thing to say. I had the
hospitals,
biggest
and
heart
they're
on
gonna be taking
stage,
over
and then Joe
Social
Biden
Security.
laughs.
He
That
is
was that's
destroying
not how you
Social
show that you have a
Security,
bigger heart.
Medicare,
It's to
and
laugh at
Medicaid.
someone's claiming to have one.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything? We're not able to, the United States can't get its pollution under control. One of the
If
largest
Putin's under
polluters in the
control,
world,
what the heck
number
is he
one.
talking
We're
about?
making significant progress. By 2035, we will have
Man,
pollution
I
in
wish
half.
this was something
We
else.
have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps.
We'll make
There's
progress
thousands
by
of young people who learn how to
2035.
Deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps.
We'll be going to Norway around that time,
We're
too.
moving
We have a
in
trip
directions
planned.
that are going to
It's a
significantly
George
change
Carlin reference,
the
if anyone
elements of
remembers
cause
that.
of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned
Oh,
about
he doesn't like that.
pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard
except for the
to
things he had just said.
Prescription drugs, one company.
Oh, he's trying to go back. Okay, let's see.
Reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
and he just stops talking.
Just to make ends meet. For many older Americans,
Oh,
Social
my
Security
goodness.
provides a critical lifeline.
Joe Biden is not looking
President
good.
Biden,
I'm
if
sorry.
nothing is done
there's
to Social
no
Security,
bias
seniors
in that. He
will
just
see
doesn't
their
look good on
benefits
stage
cut
right now.
in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share.
Make the rich
Right
pay
now,
for Social Security.
Anybody making under $170,000 pays 6%.
Let
of
the
their
rich
income
pay for
of their
boomers'
paycheck
retirement.
every
That's
single
his
time they get a paycheck
strategy.
From the time the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're going to, I propose.
We'll ask Hugo how he
Everybody,
feels
they
about
pay-
this. His retirement being funded by the
millionaires pay
rich. If this is an
1%.
acceptable sacrifice
so no one
for
I would not
for our
raise
seniors.
the cost of Social Security for anybody.
It's amazing. I'll
under
destroy the
$40,000
economy to make
after
sure
that
our
again to make
seniors
the
can
wealthy
have a happy
begin to pay their fair
retirement.
share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other?
Is there
measures that
anything
you
else
think
you
that
wanna
would be
say,
able
says
help,
Jake Tapper?
keep Social Security solvent, or is that
He's
one
tapping
enough?
this keg out,
that
man.
one enough
I mean,
will keep it
there
solvent.
ain't going to be nothing
the
left.
biggest thing will do it if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security.
I've never heard
He
that
thinks there's
enough
plenty to
on a
cut in
debate
Social
stage.
Security.
I
He's
just
wanting
need
to
to
cut
beat
Social Security
him.
and
As
Medicare,
long as I win,
both
then I'll
times.
do it. I
And that's what-
promise.
And if you look at the program put forward by
How
the House
convincing,
Republican
Mr. Biden?
caucus that he, I believe, supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way,
I guess he would know being
the
one.
American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people.
400,000. I mean 40 million. I mean 4 trillion.
Only allows them to have that insurance.
Big number,
is the
good.
fact
I did
that
big
they, in
number,
fact,
good.
are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is,
I'm
when
sorry,
the
it's just that Joe
situation where it
Biden's
talks
answers are
about
so paint by
education for
numbers.
black
I've literally
communities,
heard
I've
this
raised
man's answers, this type of
the
answer to
amount of
these
money for Pell
questions
Grants,
my
another
entire life.
$8,000 for anybody making
it's always come off like cardboard.
$70,000 a year are going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition.
Look, Joe, we know you don't
just
care
know what he's
about the
talking
youth
about.
vote. We know
you,
by the
President Biden,
polls
President
that
Trump.
you don't care.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation
Trump
for
might be
the
saying
last
what I just
8
said.
years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He can look you in the face. About so many other things too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the
It
streets.
should be said
and
some of the people that are first affected by this illegal immigration are Hispanics. A lot of illegals come into our communities first, take our resources first, take our public services first.
The idea that veterans are
Very
not being
important.
taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and
Ask
losers,
a
he said
veteran that
he
you know
acknowledged
if
after
they
that
feel
he
like they're being
fired
taken
that
care of
general.
under Joe Biden and
That
how they
general got
felt under
fired
Obama,
because
especially.
he's the one that acknowledged.
Joe
that that's
Biden-
what he said. He was the one standing with Trump. when he said it.
Anti-veteran actions
Number
did
two,
not just begin in his
the idea
presidency.
that we're going to be in a situation where
Joe Biden doesn't
all
even want
these
to talk. The
millions
fact that
and
he has not
millions of
mentioned
talks
one
about
time, one
illegal aliens
accomplishment
coming
he
into
had
the
as
country
VP
and taking
says a
away our
lot.
jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world. The reason why we have the most
Because we took it so
successful
far
economy in the world.
down
We're
from
doing
a
better
very
than any
large
other nation
height.
in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession and inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way,
Biden
worst
just looks
president
like a
in history,
nasty person.
159
That's my
presidential
biggest
scholars
problem
voted him
aesthetically
the
with
worst
the man.
president in the history of the United States of America.
Oh, no,
President Biden, thank
you,
so much. Let's
no,
turn to
I
the
wasn't
cost
the
of
worst president of the
childcare,
United
which
States.
many
You
American
were.
families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue. But the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families,
in a country where people don't want to have kids, this is an important question.
Than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people.
I would not have walked back on this statement. I hope that Trump has a really good answer. He's been really good at this so far, but he needs to have a good answer to this question.
Drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put them there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody?
He's kind of reiterating a lot of points he had before, so I'd be very interested to see how he answers the question.
As you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate, this shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it.
That's true.
Look, he's the worst
Joe Biden
president
doing a little
in the
monkey see,
history of our
monkey
country.
do there. Not
He's
exactly a good
destroyed
look.
our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit.
It was a nothing deal. We talked about that on our last show.
It's insignificant.
About 2 or 3 weeks ago, if I remember correctly.
He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We're the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America.
Are we right now?
Our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world.
That Donald Trump helped to rebuild.
No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody.
Except for Russia and China right now. Joe Biden just claimed nobody wants to screw around with America right now.
I wasn't joking.
Under his administration, World War III had taken a next step.
58, don't hold me the exact number.
It's absurd.
Presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history. One through best to worst. They said he was the
whatever
worst
answer he gives right here,
American history. That's a fact.
Outcome of a presidential
he can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted.
Anything of any kind takes decades to analyze. So any spin that he has right here, the people think that with big degrees, I bet, think Donald Trump is the worst president. Not enough time has passed to determine that. The reason Donald Trump can claim that about Joe Biden is because he's doing so from a political perspective.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question
Joe Biden
was
unable
about
to answer
what would
his
you do to make
finish his
childcare more
point as
affordable,
usual.
If you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand.
Oh, he still has
we have polling,
time to answer
we have
the question.
other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And
see,
they rate
he's
me,
not.
I'll
Joe
show
Biden
you,
keeps trying to talk.
And they rate
I
me
think
one
he
of the
does
best,
keep
okay?
forgetting that
if I'm given
laugh it
another
up.
4 years,
that
I will
the
be
mic
the
is
best.
off.
I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us.
It's a basically personal perspective of who's the best president right here, right now, versus an academic
He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times.
The academic conclusion can only come up after the fact.
So everybody, including the 2 of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far.
Pro tip, stealing money from people doesn't make them want to work.
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff, he will increase the taxes on middle class people. I said I'd never raise the tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming into the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500.
Joe Biden promises cheap Chinese crap.
To pay the difference in food.
He will not put tariffs on that cheap Chinese crap, unlike Trump.
He's in a situation where he talks about
you imagine
how
that cheap Chinese crap, cheap Chinese crap.
He somehow helped the middle class. Middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years.
The war on the middle class began under Obama. That's what Joe Biden doesn't want to talk about right here.
American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made
He's
any
just standing
contact,
there.
any progress
sure,
with
whatever.
China. We are at the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Because of the post-COVID situation, not because of anything Joe Biden wanted to do.
Impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up under your term.
If any point should actually be fairly unifying, it
former
should be
President
this
Trump,
one.
Despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000
Just to remind everyone that
Americans are
we're in
dying from
Atlanta.
overdoses every year.
Because CNN
primarily
is a
from
professional
fentanyl and other
organization.
opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction?
You know, we get frustrated when our cards are wrong at the bottom, but we don't have millions of dollars behind us. Yet,
we now
anyone
have
watching,
the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's
Beijing
a Manchurian
Biden.
candidate. He
That's
gets
why
money
they call
from
him
China.
that.
So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's
Biden
tremendous.
actually
And we
has the
saved our
ability
steel
to
industries,
direct
and there was
the
more to come. But he hasn't done
financial
that.
powers of
But
the
he
United
hasn't cut the
States to
tariffs
cut
because he
China
can't,
off
because it's too
from
much
SWIFT
money.
networks
But he's got the
and
largest
other financial
deficit
institutions.
in the history of our country.
He's threatened that,
and he's got
but
the
he
worst,
won't do it.
The worst situation
We can't
with
trust
China.
Joe Biden
China's
to
gonna own
use
us
our
if you keep
financial
allowing
power
them
to
do what they're
contain
doing to us
China.
as a country.
Trump will
they
absolutely
are killing
do
us
that.
as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of
The
like
health
nobody's
of
ever
the
had before,
economy
any
does
country, in
translate
every
to
way.
the health of the
And
society.
then
If
we
you're
had to get
poor,
tough, and it was,
you are
the
more
drugs
likely to
pouring
struggle.
across the border.
Period. Whether
were-
it's addiction, whether it's
it
depression,
started to
whatever it
increase.
is.
We got
Prosperity
great equipment.
does
We bought the certain
create
dog that's the most
stability.
incredible
Money can't buy
thing
you
that
love
you've
or
ever seen,
happiness,
the way
but
they
it can
spot it.
keep
We did
you
a
from
lot.
being
And
anxious about your
we were
financial
getting
position.
Very low numbers, very, very low numbers.
So Trump's making a
Then he
decent
came
point
along.
here. Yes,
The
you need a
numbers-
good
have you
economy to
seen
make
the
sure
numbers
people aren't
now?
addicted to drugs.
It's not only the
and the drugs
18
aren't getting
million
across the
people
border.
that I believe is
So
even
his point
low,
about
because
China
they-
goes
the
into that.
gotaways, they don't even
We are
talk about
fighting a
gotaways.
neo-opium war.
But the
China
numbers
wants
of-
to put
of
many
the amount
drugs
of drugs and
using
human
Hispanic
trafficking in
countries
women
partially as a
coming
way
across our border.
to put it into our
worst thing
country.
I've ever seen.
The entire
At
continent
numbers that
has
nobody's
a
ever seen
vested
under
interest in
him
making
because
sure
the
this
border's so
stops.
bad.
The entire
But
continent
the number
of America
drugs
could unite
coming
behind
across our
President
border
Trump.
now is
Joe
the
Biden doesn't
largest
even know
we've
how
ever
to
had
talk
by
to
far.
Central American
Trump, thank you,
countries. He
President
sends
Biden.
Kamala Harris to do it.
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while.
For a while,
Now
he
we
has
make
to
sure
admit.
We use the machinery that can detect fentanyl. These big machines that roll over everything that comes across.
We got
the
these
border.
big machines and they
And it
roll
costs a
over
lot of
stuff
money.
and it stops
That
the
was part of this deal we
fentanyl
put
way
together.
better than any
It's
wall could.
bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more to be able to detect drugs.
We need fentanyl
more
machines.
numbers of-
Fentanyl
of
machines.
more numbers of-
Fentanyl
all
machines.
across the border. And when we had that deal done,
Imagine all the
he
Biden
he
supporters.
called his
Fentanyl machine. And then Hunter
Republican
Biden.
colleagues
Yeah,
and
man.
said,
Fentanyl
"It's gonna hurt
machines.
me."
Yeah.
Come on.
Hunter, the
No, he
machines
never
don't make
argued it's not a
fentanyl.
good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We
We
need
need
those
the machines.
And we're coming down very hard in every
La
country
máquina
in Asia
muy
in terms of
importante.
precursors for fentanyl.
Máquina muy,
And
muy
Mexico is working with us
importante.
to make sure they don't
That's
have the
Joe Biden
technology
trying
to be
out
able to put
for
it together.
Univision.
That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the
It's
throes
ridiculous.
of addiction right now, struggling to get the treatment.
See, it's
they
weird.
need.
Joe Biden tried to
This-
follow
'cause this
Trump
does
on the whole
pertain
border.
to
I'm going to talk about something other
He
than the
ended
question
remain in
point.
Mexico.
Now I think
He
that
ended
Trump
catch
is
and
going to
release.
nail
I
this
made it
point.
catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard
Okay,
negotiations
no,
with
neither are
Mexico,
really
and I got it
addressing
all for
the
nothing.
core of this issue,
It's just like
which
when
is a
you have
little,
hostage.
little
We always pay
disappointing because
$6
Trump gave
billion
really good
for a
answers on the
every time
opioid
we say there's a
crisis on the
hostage.
Jake Paul interview
Now
that
we
he
have
did
a hostage,
recently.
a Wall Street Journal reporter.
But at the
I
same
think a
time,
good guy,
a lot of people know
and
that this
he's
issue
over there
is
because
the border
Putin is
issue. It
laughing
is
at
the
this guy,
geopolitical
probably
issue.
asking for billions of dollars
And the economic issue.
for the
So
reporter.
I understand why
I will
both
have
of them.
him out
And it's
very
true.
quickly.
Putin is literally
As soon as
laughing
I
at Joe
take
Biden.
office, before I take office, I said
Putin's probably
by
looking at this debate
literally,
and is like,
as soon as I win
this
the
is
election,
making my trip
I
to
will
North
have that
Korea
reporter
look
out.
good.
He should have had him out a long time ago. But Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had two cases where he paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
It's true. Under Joe Biden, he's made Americans targets. An American serviceman was recently catfished by a Russian girl, and now he's in jail. You think Joe Biden's going to spend billions of dollars on him? He easily could. Every amount of money that we give for hostages is money that is killing Ukrainians.
Well, first of
That's
all,
on Joe Biden's head.
I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person.
I was the youngest, and now I'm the oldest.
Senate.
Yes, Joe, that's how time works.
This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at
I won't name names, but I actually met somebody who was a page in the Senate
15 million new jobs,
here in Colorado, and he talked about to me
investment in America.
About, I would love to have him on as an interviewee. Talked about how he would ask people in the Senate, well, who's the smartest person in the Senate? And they would give all kinds of different names and everything. Everyone had different opinions. Everyone had the same opinion on who was the dumbest. Oh, yeah, Joe Biden. Oh, yeah, everyone knows Joe. You can always pull one on Joe.
Because he was sending people.
This guy was old Joe when he was the youngest member of the Senate or whatever he's talking
bring home a
about.
product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States. And they're
because Samsung totally wasn't going to invest millions of dollars, billions of dollars in the United States phone market without Joe Biden.
You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating
We're building $40 billion. We're printing it right up.
From all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. Never heard a president talk like this before.
It's been presidential rhetoric for decades.
Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us, all of our allies.
Except when it comes to promises made to Ukraine, promises made to pay American people stimulus and not just claim it from your predecessor.
They don't want to screw around.
Promises like we'll pay for your student loans.
Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them. Both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one.
I would too. All of us would. We could all use a good laugh.
The first 5 questions, he couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won
given the cost of wood these days.
Not even senior. 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm in good shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter.
From this debate performance, you can see who's
as good a
healthier,
shape
who's
as I
better
was,
off. I mean,
years ago, I feel very
that
good.
was very clear in this debate.
I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they've never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds.
What the heck?
Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway.
What are they arguing about Trump's weight and height for?
What he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. And
I got my handicap down to a 6.
I'm happy to play golf with you if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
Did Joe Biden?
He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
They're challenging each other to golf.
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay,
let's not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to turn.
Let's not act like children.
To a specific concern.
What the hell? Wow. Joe Biden tells Donald Trump, you are a child.
Legal challenges have been exhausted.
After Donald Trump says, let's not be childish. You are a child.
Regardless of who wins.
Let's not be upset, Joe. You're upset.
Right now that political violence in any form
let's not be
is unacceptable.
Predators from the movie Alien. You're a predator from the movie Alien, Trump.
It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, And also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made, in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that.
That's my biggest problem with Joe Biden. This is him at a reserve state. Can you imagine Joe Biden behind closed doors in international meetings? Can you imagine that?
As Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not
That's
mine.
what should make you never want this man as president.
But the answer is,
you should not want
if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president because I wouldn't be
That's
here
fair.
Right now.
Literally all of us do.
One of my
we don't want Democrats to be like that. There are a lot of Democrats who aren't.
I wouldn't have been
a lot of Democrats are saying right now the party doesn't have to be this way.
Because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that.
That's very big of Trump to say that about someone who just called him a child.
The only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III. And we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine.
That's undeniable.
We are very, very close to World War III. And he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him.
North Korea and Russia have actually signed a mutual defense pact. That should scare everybody. That is a formal alliance.
World War III. Let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want.
But he got us into World War III.
There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is an attack on all, and required response. The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation.
I think Jan Stoltenberg has a few things to say about that, Mr. Biden, about how well you've been doing with European defense.
And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again,
we have to rely on you for it.
Just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv. Make sure they move on. See what happens in Poland, Hungary.
And he keeps relying on that so bad. He said, "Let me do. Let him do whatever he wants. Let him do whatever he wants." He said it.
Back to you for a follow-up.
The context is obviously, if the Europeans are going to defend themselves, why should America? Europeans are going to defend themselves.
Just to finish what he said.
There's nothing questionable about that.
Russia. They took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew
that's the biggest thing that Biden cannot answer.
Not to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you asked me a question before, would you do this with...
It's true.
He's got us in
Under
such a bad
Biden, Ukraine
right
dies a slow death it doesn't
Ukraine
deserve.
And Russia.
Under Trump, Ukraine has a chance to decisively win on the geopolitical level.
They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked.
Undeniable.
President Trump, the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely. There's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments,
he has no discipline.
No political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
It's true.
Let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued. You appealed and appealed to courts all across the country.
How dare he appeal the fraud you did?
Said any of your claims had any merit.
That's
state
not true.
Or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea if you lose again, you accepting anything?
Well, I guess he can't be a whiskier now, can he?
Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate, live from Georgia.
All right, the torture continues. No, honestly, this isn't very torturous at all. This is a really interesting debate. It's been a very interesting debate. It's really showed us a lot about sort of what we already thought. That's my biggest thing about this debate is that all of the predictions that were anti-Biden have come true. All of the predictions that were anti-Trump really have not come true. And all the points where people thought Donald Trump was going to be weak on, like with the cutting off of the microphone, that hasn't caused Donald Trump any problems. I think you got to rely on the adage here that limitations create structure. And when you have limitations that are creating structure for you, you have a lot easier time figuring out what to say and when to say it. So you see Joe Biden struggling with the fact that he wants to talk, but his mic's cut off. So I think we're seeing a very deep inversion for all of Biden's strengths that he was supposed to have. This is not a debate turning out his way. And it's not just because he's only speaking Democrat talking points. He should be, as a Democrat, speaking good Democrat talking points. But he's not speaking them very well. He's waffling constantly. And beyond that, let's just go directly to the meat of what he's saying. He's ultimately saying, I'm going to stick to the status quo. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Donald Trump kind of has that, saying, I'm going to go back to the good old days of me. Biden's kind of trying to do the same things, but he's trying to give a reminiscence of a good old days while we're still having bad days presently. That's a losing formula, and always going to be a losing formula. Because there'll never be a point where you can fool the people into thinking that they're better off than they are right now. You could maybe fool people into thinking, well, right, you were better off under Obama, right? Right? We thought that, right? People remember what happened yesterday, a year ago, 2 years ago, even if they don't remember what happened 8, 12, 16 years ago. Joe Biden isn't relying on voters being stupid. He's relying on himself being like Trump. And that's really, I think, the ultimate tagline here is that Joe Biden is what the media thinks that Donald Trump is. And Donald Trump is what the media says Joe Biden is. Donald Trump is the swifter wit, the more likable person, the person you'd more likely want to see in the traditional sense at a barbecue. You know, that was, ever since Dwight D. Eisenhower, that's been kind of a benchmark for American... well, I mean, real quick, look how Joe Biden looked then versus now, first of all. But this is the benchmark by which people running for office are judged in their popularity. And yes, we will be at that national convention that you see on screen live July 15th to 18th. Hispanic Patriot will be bringing you everything that we can find, everything that we experience, all the people that we meet. You'll be seeing it in shorts and regular videos. We probably won't be doing our live format just because of the setup and ability. But please look out for us on any radio shows that we are invited to. You will see everything through our Facebook page and hopefully our Twitter as things come along. It'll be a little bit difficult with all of us being there, but we will be bringing to you Hispanic Patriots. Now, let's go back
2 minutes
to CNN.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience, or anyone out...
There's nobody in the audience, Joe! There is no audience!
The fact is that
he's made this mistake numerous times.
Nobody making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes, and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this
he looks like he's desperately begging when he talks to the people.
Number one, He's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where
Joe Biden speaks as if Donald Trump was the president for like the last 4 years for anything that Joe Biden finds bad.
For example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare to.
That's also not true. Donald Trump doesn't want to increase tariffs for everything in the United States, coming into the United States. That as a basis to get better trade negotiation positions.
We got it down to 15,
Democrats, when they criticize Trump, never seem to acknowledge that we say one thing at one time in business in order to achieve something later down the line.
They need. You know what that did?
Business is a game of respect. So Democrats who don't know about respect on the establishment level, they don't understand business.
I'm going to make that available to every senior all along. It's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care.
So
we're going to significantly increase the credits.
Increase taxes on the rich. I promise it won't affect you. I won't do anything against China.
We're doing on lead pipes and all.
Democrats are good at health care, right?
Causing health problems for people across the country.
That seems to be Joe Biden's main points here.
And give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President
give people
Trump,
a break from me. I agree, Brandon.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding.
Yeah,
because
looking at World War III versus Charlottesville on January 6th.
And they don't respect you throughout
the
world.
Not really that important.
What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs. But he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like. Even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves. And
Jump right here, making a very good point. I'll stop World War III. I'll actually do stuff.
So all of these things.
People
we're
already liked what I did. I'll keep doing it.
But it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate.
We'll tell you what we think of the job we did.
Now on CNN.
All right, bit of an anticlimactic end with Joe Biden still looking a little uncertain about things. He's like, is it over? Is it? Do we? I don't know. All right. That appears to be the end of the first presidential debate of 2024. Again, before even the conventions, before these two gentlemen are even selected by their primaries. They've had a really, in my opinion, telling debate. And I really would like to see what the public reaction to this is and to see if it corresponds to our observations here on Hispanic Patriot, because I think a lot of Hispanic voters will be looking at this aesthetically, especially watching Joe Biden flounder around. Can you imagine how this would be translated into Spanish? And that's just on one segment of American society. For most voters, they will see the contrast between Donald Trump's articulation, the fact Donald Trump hasn't seemed to miss a beat between where he is now and where he was in the past. whereas even foreign observers can't stop talking about Joe Biden's decline throughout the many years. This is what happens to establishment politicians who don't acknowledge their decline. It kind of is true about anything that doesn't acknowledge its decline. And that's what we're seeing a lot of in the world today, is whether it's Joe Biden or Xi Jinping or Vladimir Putin. We see people from an old, or Kim Jong-un, we see people, even if they're not old themselves like Kim Jong-un, with an extremely old mentality of living that the rest of the world is really wanting to move on from. And I just don't think we move on as a world by re-electing Obama's VP, the guy who created the conditions for World War III that we're in right now. And we will be talking more through our various platforms about how Joe Biden has really helped to create the situation, towards World War III and towards a declining world security situation. But that was, I think, a much bigger point in this debate than I expected it to be. The reaction to international incidents, international goings-on. We, as a country, shape the world. And what we need to ask ourselves is, which one of those two men on that debate stage do we want to have shaping it? The guy who was, acting like a gremlin half the time, with no discipline either in his speech, who called his political opponent a child, who really had no tact or discipline, as I said before, versus Trump, who again has clearly showed that he is the same, if not sharper, than he was 4 to 8 years ago. One thing to talk about, now that we have these two on screen with Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, I thought they were a lot fairer than I thought they were going to be. And I think the big reason why they were forced to was that very rigid time and mic controlling. I think that time and mic controlling, a lot of people said, it's not going to be good for Donald Trump. I think it made Donald Trump into a much better debater than he was the last two times. He had stock and discipline that he wouldn't have been able to have if he had been allowed to go whole hog throughout the whole debate. I think they should have let him have his open mic and let him hang himself on it, but they couldn't. They didn't. It didn't happen. We all thought, really, that was going to be Donald Trump's biggest Achilles heel. And the fact that it wasn't, and if they keep that rule for the other debates, that's not going to be good for Joe Biden. Everything they stacked the deck against Donald Trump with failed them tonight. And that means Donald Trump is going into the convention, which we will be bringing you, with this momentum. And he's already said he's going to announce his VP pick. I would be shocked if it wasn't Tim Scott after that name drop in this debate. So hopefully you've heard it here first on Hispanic Patriot. And we will bring you more analysis on our weekly show this coming Wednesday on exactly this topic, exactly this debate. So please look out for that and see Hugo's opinion on these two guys. I know you'll find it very interesting. I know you'll love it. And that's why we bring you the show every week. So thank you guys for the special edition of watching the first presidential debate together. We'll be trying to have some more events like this in the future, perhaps even a live one going forward. But those aren't for a little while, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And let us know what you think in the comments. Leave us a like and subscribe to our channel. And make sure you share with your friends, especially Hispanic Patriots who are just getting into politics this election. Give them the inspiration and the information that they need to bring their values, bring Hispanic values to the forefront of America. Because I think we all see America really needs it. So thank you for Hispanic Patriots. Thank you guys for everything you do out there, and we will be seeing you in the weekly show. Thank you for tuning in.